Hey, this is a video right here about how to take a stream coming out of Optitrack's Motive, bring it into Unreal Engine, and live retarget onto a CG character like the mannequin or a Metahuman or a Paragon asset or whatever you got. This is about how to do that and get a live retargeted view, not using Motion Builder, just using what Unreal Engine has. This is an advance on this other video that I've made here, which retargets motion directly onto the mannequin, but this results in foot sliding because the method shown in that video doesn't scale the skeleton correctly. So what I'm going to show here is using a skeleton that is made with Optitrack bone names and the Optitrack skeleton convention, and we're going to stream right onto that. And that will let us retarget from that onto any other character, and I'll demonstrate all of this. So I'll start this by just making a new project. And it's just going to be a blank project with nothing in it. And now I'm making this in 5.2.1 Unreal Engine. And we'll need to add some content. We're going to add the third person pack, because we want this character's mannequin stuff. We want these. We're going to retarget onto that. We want the Optitrack Live Link plugin. Alright, so what we want to add to this are a skeleton that we can stream onto, a skeletal mesh. I've got here in my GitHub, you can have a skeletal mesh that works great for this. It's in this Unreal Engine folder, in this Optitrack scale folder. You want all of these things, and the easiest way to get all of these things is you go to the top level of the project and you either download this zip or you hit this button to clone it, and then you use something like git bash to do a git clone or something like that, and then you'll get a folder full of this stuff which you can open in the Explorer like so. And you can see that I've already downloaded all of these same things, and in this Unreal Engine folder, here are the objects that I want. And so there's one skeletal mesh here, one FBX here, and the rest of these are U assets that you should be able to just drag and drop into your project. So I'm going to put this to the test. I'm going to copy this and this, copy, or maybe I'll just do it this way. I'll go to my characters folder and show in Explorer like this, and I'll make a new folder called Opti SKM. I don't know, good enough. Double click. Now there's more than one way to get these things into your scene. One way is you take this FBX and you bring it in like this, and you get the standard FBX import window. If you use this, you want to make sure skeleton is set to none and force front axis is set to on. That will orient the skeleton in the right way. I'm not going to do that. I'll show you the other option. The other option is to bring in all these other items, which are all U assets. These are the skeletons, and this is an IK Retargeter and an IK rig. And having these would be handy, and then we wouldn't have to make them. So I'm going to try this method, just dragging them into my project, which is the same version, 5.2.1, and maybe it just works. Let's try and open this, and it says this mesh currently has no valid skeleton. Do you want to create a new one? Yes. And it looks like it's created another skeleton here, and this one isn't being used, so that's fine. I don't mind. It also looks like the materials didn't map on there very well, so let's just stick those on there. That's fine. Save. Now let's see if this IK rig thing works. It does not work, so I think this should work. That is the SKM Opti, the one we just made, and that looks good now, so we'll save that. And then this one probably doesn't work either. Double click, select the source IK rig, and that does look good. Okay, what doesn't look good here is that many of these mappings have lost their none setting. So let me scroll this a little bit. So what I mean is, we've got a source skeleton here. Let's just drag this over. Select this and make them side by side here. In our mannequin skeleton, we have twist joints and metacarpals, but in our source skeleton, we have no metacarpals and no twist joints. So that means these shouldn't be mapped to a clavicle, they should be mapped to none. So you have to go through here, map all these to none. Now that happens whenever these get changed. So these things are pretty flexible, and you can use different skeletons with these, but keep in mind, whenever you change this, so if I was going to change this Manny skeleton to Quinn, for example, all of these would have to get reset. Now I wrote a little Python that I'll show off in another video that does this with a button click, but for now I'll just change these and fast forward through it. Now we'll save that. That should be as tedious as it gets. So if you have a stream going, which we do, got a ROM running here. If you've got a stream coming in and your live link has already been set up, ours has not. So we've got a stream, and let's add a live link source with a subject. In this same window, we can use the live link preview controller with this subject name to instantly see our motion working, or not, as the case may be. And that's pretty handy to do some affirmations, especially if you don't have any motions to check with. So I can see that this is working as expected. So I'll turn this off and save. And now we'll start to build this up in our scene. So we've got, we want to get our motion streaming onto this skeleton. And so for that you need an animation blueprint with a single node in it, the live link node. And then we'll just put live link here. Double click. Live link pose. Set our subject name. And connect and compile. That looks great. We'll save. And now we need something for this mannequin to receive the motion. So we're going to stream onto a mannequin, and we need, let's say we're going to use this Manny. We're going to need to create a blueprint for this one as well, animation blueprint. Manny retard. And this one needs a single node as well, but it's a different one. It's retarget from pose. Retarget pose from mesh, so that's not quite right. Connect this, and this one needs an IK Retargeter asset, so we're going to use the one we were just looking at with the preview. That's this one. And you want to make sure use attached parent is set. So if we compile and save and close, we can then put our Optitrack skeleton into the scene. We can get the motion of this Optitrack skeleton into the scene with a live link skeletal animation node. And as soon as we enable this with the blueprint we just made, which is that one, we should see it moving, and we do. Now, how do we know that this is at the right scale? Well, there's a great little preview option in here under all classes. Go down to the O's for Optitrack, and there's an Optitrack Live Link preview. And if you zero out the transforms here, they should overlay one over the other, and you can see that it's a perfect one-to-one match, which is great. So Oops, so we don't need this display anymore. We'll delete that. Now how do we get this guy to be showing the mani, the motion on the mani? Well, let's open this up a little bit and add a child component here that is a skeletal mesh component. And we'll call it target skeletal mesh component. Let's just say target SKM. And this one we set to be mani. So this is our source and this is our target. And the mani will need that blueprint. It's this one that we need here, the ABP mani retarg, that one. And so that's almost right, but it's not moving. Why isn't it moving? Well, there's a little bit of a refresh issue with Live Link sometimes. So if we delete that Live Link component and we add a new one, it will move. So that's a little bit of a gotcha. If you are ever running into trouble with your Live Link updating, deleting the Live Link component, or in some cases coming to this blueprint here, breaking this connection, doing a compile, and then reconnecting, that seems to refresh things, get them working. So in this kind of situation, where you've got your target and your skeletal mesh in one thing, very often you'll want to turn off the visibility for your source, so you're just seeing your target, and that's a way you can do it right there in the editor. So from here, let's show another method. We will use a blueprint this time. So we're going to use a blueprint on this, oops, not that one, on this heroes, Murdoch, meshes. So here we've got Murdoch, and we want to see this character retargeted. So what we'll do for this guy is we'll, instead of the last method where we did it in the editor, we'll make a blueprint. We've got a retarget blueprint for this. When we'll add a skeletal mesh component, we will add a child skeletal mesh component, and this one we'll call source, and this one we'll call target. We'll also need a Live Link component to update it live in editor, so we'll have that. And our source is going to be the Optitrack skeletal mesh thing, and the blueprint that this one uses is here, and the target is going to be our Murdoch. But we need to make a blueprint for this to receive, so we'll do that now. We need a animation blueprint, just like we did a minute ago. And this one gets a retarget pose for mesh. And we're going to use that same retargeter that worked for mani. The same one that worked for mani will work here as well, because the bone names are going to be the same. So now let's go back to our blueprint, which is here, and set our target blueprint to the retarg Murdoch file. And if we look in the viewport, we can see that our Murdoch is retargeted. So that's Murdoch. Now let's look at the metahumans. So here's a Chandra metahuman. Looks like that. And what we're going to need is a blueprint that drives this skeleton, and then we're going to want to put in here a parent that is the driver skeleton. So it's just like before. I'm going to reuse this same blueprint by duplicating it. and we'll call it retarg. Let's see how well that worked. It didn't work well at all because here none of these are set right. So this is the body, which is the NRW male. This one, I think. And the feet are the flip-flop feet. And the legs are, I'm not sure what the legs are. See if I can find it without looking. Oh, it's these shorts. Yeah. And the torso is going to be that t-shirt. Can I find that? There's the t-shirt. Great. And the face. So let's check the viewport. That looks pretty good. So compile. So we're going to need to make a new component, which is the skeletal mesh source. And this will be source. This will go here. So the source is the parent, and we need our Opti skeletal mesh, our Opti animation blueprint, which is right here. And for this body, we're going to need a suitable animation blueprint that will take a retargeter. So let's make one of those. We'll make it this way, animation blueprint, and we'll find the skeleton that we need, which I think will be flip-flop skeleton. We'll create that. A, B, P, Chandra retard. This is going to be a retarget pose for mesh, just like before. I'm not sure if I got the right skeleton. And see what happens. So if we use that one and compile and close, and then over here, Metahuman Chandra, over here in this blueprint viewport, we go to the body and set that to what we just made. To the Chandra. We can see that we get the motion that we want. Great. Compile and save. And similarly, we may want to hide the source. We'll just do it like this for now. We forgot to add the live link component. So if we close all this up, we see we don't have a live link skeletal animation component. When we add that and compile, we can see that we get this metahuman is moving now. So really, that's the gist. Those are 3 different ways to do this. I want to point out a couple of things here that are important to mention. If you do this one, if you are making your own one of these, you want to make sure that your target object has the pose updated to be a 90-degree pose. So when you first add a mannequin, it'll look like this, but you won't get a good retarget if you leave it like this. So you'll need to put it into edit mode, grab the root element, and rotate this 90 degrees to get a good retargeting result. So that's an important thing that I don't want to leave out. The other thing that's worth talking about is what if you have a different skeleton? You don't have an Optitrack skeleton, you've got a skeleton from somewhere else. Maybe it's a Mixamo or a DAS skeleton or a different system like Vicon or something. All of this will apply just the same to there. You will just need to manually make your assets, your IK rig, like this thing here. You'll need to update this to be appropriate for your particular skeleton. And ideally, you will have a perfect A pose for your skeleton. Now, the way that I made this perfect A pose, and this is really the #1 contributor to why this motion looks good in this case, is because this pose is driven by that pose. And I did this using Motion Builder. I took the Optitrack skeleton in Motion Builder, I made a perfect T pose, characterized it, did the same thing for Manny, used the numeric input to get perfect T poses for both of these, and then I set them both into an A pose, and I stored that in a way that I can apply it to any Optitrack skeleton now after the fact. So I'll talk more about that in another video, but this A pose is really the key reason the retargeting is going so smoothly. And again, I'll talk about how to make these retargeting assets in another video that I'll make right after this. So really that's the whole gist of the thing. 3 different ways to do this. Same sort of thing. One with a blueprint, one just in the outliner, and a more complicated one with the Metahuman just because it's got a complicated skeleton. That's all for this video. I hope you join me for the next one, which will be more about these retargeting rigs and retargeting assets generally. I want to take a little bit more of a deeper look at some of these things. So join me for that one. Hopefully I'll bang that one out soon. Cheers.